7, we are going to be, I don't think I have any announcements, except for the same one that I announced last week, which is my rates go up on the 20th of January, 2026. So if you wanted to get yourself a little late New Year's present, right? Kick off your new year and start creating a new life for yourself. Like if you're miserable right now or feeling some pain even, and you really feel like every time you've tried and you've gotten some traction and then boom, something happens and sets you back, or you don't know all the how, maybe you want some accountability, or you just want a full-on structure with all of everything that you need in order to heal your life so that you're thinking on default in a up-leveled way, right? Moving you to the next phase of your life smack in the middle of this grief and in the middle of active alienation. I mean, it's always kind of active, right? But like either way, you feel like you're ready to just move forward with life. And you want all the tools in one place and my support weekly in order to get you there. You want to see your life entirely different within a 6-month period. Come on. Come schedule your consult call with me, your clarity call with me, okay? And I can't wait to meet you. Okay. All right. So today it's going to be a shorter episode. We're going to be talking about, it looks so bright in this room. I actually need to put my notes in front of the screen so I don't see myself. So today we're going to be talking about, I haven't fully titled it yet, but the idea is going to be old pain versus new pain. Now, if you're a long-term listener, you maybe know my feelings or my thoughts about the term old pain. I don't think that there is such a thing. In my mind, old pain, you cannot carry old pain with you. We've talked about processing before, and sometimes things like our sort of stuck trauma and grief get stuck in sort of pockets, right? But it's the thoughts that you're thinking now, like the stories that you're replaying to yourself, causing you pain in the now. You're not, like the past doesn't have so much power over you that it can reach into your life in the present and cause you the same pain that you felt back when the initial event or whatever happened, right? Occurred. So the reason I feel it's important to bring that up in the beginning, make that distinction, is because I want you to be able to take your power back. I used to think that it was out of my control, like the pain that I was feeling and I felt back in the day, that was going to just follow me around. And it did follow me around until I learned how to manage my mind and create emotions on purpose, even through the grief. Okay? So that's what this episode is really going to help you to do, is to make the distinction between what you're still carrying from the past and what you're processing real time if you're metabolizing the grief. So when I'm using the word resentment here today, just know that it could also be interchangeable with self-created suffering. And it does not always have to be that you're thinking about some specific resentment that you have towards the other party, right? The alienating parent, or even your kids, or whoever else was a player in or is a player in your situation. It could be resentment at the situation or just a feeling of hopelessness, what have you, okay? So what I have written here for the little intro is, when something small happens in your day, just a simple little look, a memory, an exchange, a short exchange, and suddenly you're caught in this loop of negativity that you just cannot shake. It starts innocently enough, but before long, your body is tense, your mind is spinning, and you're in a very familiar state of full-on emotional suffering. That's what we're talking about today. Those everyday moments when the past hijacks the present, or it feels like it does anyway. We're going to explore how to tell the difference between refeeding old resentment and actually metabolizing new grief, so you can start sensing which kind of pain is asking for your attention and how to respond to it in a way that helps you to heal rather than spiral. All right? I decided to do this episode because I do so often have clients that will text me, new clients that will text me throughout the week and say, I just can't get out of this loop. I just can't help myself. I'm processing through so much grief. They feel like helpless and a victim of the grief. But actually, 9 times out of 10, when I get that message, some version of that message, it's not grief that they're processing. It's the self-created suffering. So being able to tell the difference will help you to feel, one, more in control of your situation. And also, it'll just help you differentiate so you know whether it's helping you in the moment to keep going in the route that you're going or whether you can stop it. Sometimes when we're in those loops, it feels so necessary because we think that that's the only way that we could feel, and that's you processing through grief, and it's not. Okay, so I'm going to start right off the bat with a quick self-test that you guys can do. And you can return back to this episode if, like, in the moment, if you're feeling activated and something's going on for you, and respond to these questions, or you can take notes now, write these questions down. There's only 7 of them. It's a quick way to help you diagnose, if you will, what's going on for you. All right. So I'm going to invite you to think of a situation that's been weighing on you, been heavy on your heart lately. I want you to bring it to mind and notice what happens inside your body. And then let's see what kind of pain might be active for you. Okay? You've got this idea, like this, whatever's been bothering you the most lately, something you might have been looping on, or like just feels really activating for you. I don't mean to re-traumatize you, but it's already going to be going on for you anyway. So we might as well pull up the most relevant thing for you, unpleasant situation for you, and have you apply it because it'll be more effective for you moving forward. You'll remember more of it. Okay. So once you've got that situation in your mind, you're feeling how you feel usually in your body when it happens. First question is, does this feel like a rerun? Does it feel like it's nothing new? If it's yes, if your answer is yes, you're likely refeeding unprocessed resentment or suffering. Same scenes, same lines, no new insight is usually the case. And if it's no, if it feels fresh and really specific, you're probably metabolizing what's here right now. Grief. You're in the present moment instead of living in the past. Question 2. Does the intensity keep escalating without any relief or movement? Does it keep escalating? Or does it feel quick? Does it feel slow? If your answer is yes, it just keeps building, then you're probably a resentment loop or some sort of rumination. This pattern is known to prolong your distress and is linked with stuck grief and depression. Grief, on the other hand, usually crests and then slowly settles. Even if you're still sad, it's more of like a whoop, and then you slowly come down. There's movement, slow movement, but it moves. That was question 2. I want to kind of move a little slowly through these so it gives you some time to reflect. Question 3. After sitting with it, do you feel more clear or more flooded? If it's more flooded and you feel maybe more confused or more agitated, it's likely that your mind is spinning old narratives. But if you feel a bit more clear, a bit more soft, even if you're still sad, maybe even tired afterwards, that's a sign that the emotion is integrating and you have been processing. So do you feel more clear or flooded? And by flooded, I mean like inundated. Question 4. What is the tone of your inner dialogue? Are you using a lot of always, never character attacks? They're evil. They're wrong. They're Satan. I don't mean to laugh. As soon as I said Satan, it reminds me of how I used to speak about my ex. I used to call him Satan, and I had a nickname for her too. And it felt so like oddly good, but like in this like little nudging, urging way to say it was like, oh, you know? So if your answer is yes, that you're using a lot of always, never, character attacks and what have you, those are global, extreme, repetitive thoughts, which are signature characteristics of resentment. That's your brain reaching for moral certainty. It's definitely not integration. It's okay if it's happening with you. It's happened with all of us, right? For sure. Even me to this day, there are times when I will catch myself in the extreme repetitive thoughts. Not a problem that you're there if you are. If it's no, that you're not using a lot of always, never, none of that character assassination sort of things. Instead, you're naming your own specific hurts and losses. That's more aligned with grief. It's grief finding its voice by naming what mattered, what matters to you. When it's more personal and you're talking about, oh, this just hurts because I'm telling myself that it means our relationship can't grow, or that we're losing memories or something like that. That's more aligned with grief. I mean, now, well, I'll leave it at that. That can actually go into a spiral depending on what the dialogue looks like from there, but let's just leave it at that for right now. Question 5. Are you secretly trying to re-argue the past or win an imaginary case in your head? If it's yes, that's your brain trying to gain control by rewinding and litigating. It's usually looking for some sort of vindication. It is very human. It's an understandable defense against helplessness, but it keeps the old stories alive and the wounds raw. If your answer is no, that you're more focused on, this is my version of what happened and this is how I'm feeling right now, like ABC emotion named, that's closer to actual mourning or grief. Question 6. When the emotional wave passes, where do you land? Do you feel less able to care for yourself or function? If yes, if you feel less capable, you've probably been feeding unprocessed resentment, right? Which tends to drain your energy and increase your symptoms. It may not be that you fully can't take care of yourself or function. Maybe you're functioning throughout your everyday life, but it feels so much harder because maybe there's extra overwhelm or the problems seem bigger in your mind now. That's a classic sign that you've been feeding resentment or creating suffering for yourself, which tends to drain your energy and increase your symptoms. If your answer is no, that you feel a little bit more grounded, clearer, or perhaps like you've gotten more space to move, you've likely been metabolizing your grief. Okay? Last question. Did anything new emerge from the whole thing? Like when you were done, I just had a funny visual right now, but when the whole emotional experience sort of subsides, do you notice that you have the exact same story still with no real new information? If that's the case, then you probably have just replayed history without digesting it. If something novel appears, on the other hand, a truth, a boundary, a realization, right? A softness, even just a little tiny insight, you've moved the energy. It's grief processing. That's your quiz, okay? Just 7 easy questions. I'm just going to say the questions without the answers again. Number 1 is, does this feel like a rerun? Number 2 is, does the intensity keep escalating without any relief or movement? 3 is, after sitting with it, do you feel more clear or more flooded? Number 4 is, what is the tone of your inner dialogue? Are you using always, never, character assassination sort of statements or what? Okay? Everyone's against me, that sort of thing. Number 5 is, are you secretly trying to re-argue the past or win an imaginary case in your mind? Number 6 is, when the emotional wave passes, where do you land? Do you feel less able to care for yourself or function? And like I said, take that wording with a grain of salt. Do you just feel more overwhelmed or less? Number 7, the last question is, did anything new emerge? You can just run through those simple or even just a few of those questions the next time you've been in a situation or feel like you're just really activated. Ask yourself these questions. Now, here are a few scenarios that show how the same exact event can trigger either refeeding old resentment or metabolizing grief in real time, just depending on your emotional internal state. And it's helpful to realize that whatever activating situation going on right now, this same exact event can be processed and seen, summarized in countless different ways. I'm only seeing it this way right now because of what has happened in my past and my identity based on the beliefs that I've carried up until now. But I don't have to see it this way if I don't want to. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But there's so many different ways to process the information that's happening outside of us. So scenario 1, the missed birthday. Your child doesn't respond to a birthday message. Coming from old pain, it might sound like she never cared, he never cared, they turned them against me, they turned my kid against me, I'll never matter to them. That's coming from old pain. Your chest tightens, your mind spirals. The story feels the same every time, okay? You might scroll through old photos, you might reread court emails or your ex's emails, whoever's, and replay every past rejection. The more you think, the more hopeless and wronged you feel, but nothing moves. The same event through the lens of clean pain is going to sound much different. It'll sound like, this hurts because I love him or her, and today that love in your mind has nowhere to land, okay? You allow a few tears or deep breaths, maybe a quiet walk. The sadness doesn't vanish, but it passes through you instead of locking you down. You still feel pain. Definitely, you feel the physical sensations inside of you. Maybe your stomach pains. Maybe there's a tightness in your chest a little bit at first. But when it's grief, you'll notice, because after taking some deep breaths in, exhaling longer than your inhales, and you allow for some quiet, for you to gain some grounding and space, you'll notice that the pain starts to shift, even ever so slightly. It doesn't always have to completely dissipate, but you'll notice the physical sensations shift. Maybe they lift completely. Maybe they just sort of start to break up and you feel it more broad across your chest or your stomach than you once did in the beginning when it was tight. That's you processing grief. The other one, when you're in the old pain and you're like I call that, it's dirty or clean pain. And the dirty pain feels like tight and it feels urging and a lot of times speedy and it's urgent, just kind of like I said, okay? Scenario 2, a friend mentions their close bond with their teen. This is a really popular, that's not the right word, common scenario that I hear from clients, that it's so annoying. In fact, now that I'm saying this, I did a reel on this, like a Instagram reel so long ago about this. It used to drive me crazy when people would either brag on their teens or complain, not even teens, their kids, or complain about their kids being too much. It used to make me crazy because it was like, at least you have kids to be too much. Like, what are you bitching about? Stop it. And if you're going to bitch to somebody else, not me, right? Anyway, so I feel you. So from the old pain, you freeze. The comparison voice kicks in for you. Other parents get normal relationships. I was robbed of mine. Your chest burns as you mentally compile evidence of injustice. The emotion grows sharper and more consuming, building energy but never delivering relief. Okay, it builds on me. The energy always is building, compounding. Coming from new pain, clean pain version acknowledges the ache, right? Maybe it's, I'm feeling envy and loss right now. Okay, you notice the conflicting thoughts and you don't shame yourself for them. You let them surface. You let the emotions surface from you. The moment actually illuminates what you still long for: connection, normalcy, everyday moments. And by admitting that truth, you soften. Sometimes tears, sometimes relief, but it's a movement toward honesty and not bitterness. That part's really, really important, especially when we're talking about like any sort of envy, is that you're moving more towards honesty with yourself, not bitterness towards the outside. That's when you know that you're processing grief real time, actual grief, not self-created suffering, okay? So the last scenario is seeing a social media post of your ex and your child together. Maybe the stepmom or stepfather and your child together. The old pain, your body reacts before your thought even catches up. You zoom in on the photo, you look for clues, proof that you've been edited out. Hours later, you're drained, angry, and stuck in a familiar mental courtroom. From the new pain, your breath catches, you feel the ache in your chest, right? You recognize, my body just remembered what it feels like to be left out, right? All of a sudden, that old fear of being forgotten resurfaced. Maybe you close the app and sit quietly and let the sadness simply be there. That's how it heals from the new pain. Over time, the energy disperses, and what remains is acceptance and maybe even a quiet blessing for your child's safety. Not a worry, anxious, oh my God, what am I going to do? They're not safe, blah, blah, blah. Not to say that that's wrong if you had that there. But when we're talking about the grief pain, then it's more of a, I know what is mine, what's in circle 1 to control. And I'm just going to do everything I can to stay open and aware while keeping my nervous system at ease as much as I can. And I'm going to just keep praying or putting it out there to the universe, depending on what you believe, that everything is okay with my child. And even if it's not okay, like you know that things are happening with them that of course you wouldn't choose. There's abuse going on. Just knowing that and trusting, here's how I did it. I'm not telling you that you have to do it this way, but how I did it, because it used to eat me alive, this part, the worry, anxiety, and all of that I would just loop on over and over, and it felt like it was so out of my control. That's when I came to the conclusion that I needed to have faith in what is panning out right now, what's happening for her right now is in the end is going to be the best thing it's going to be giving her. And now is giving her tools for the complete version of her who has been all the way evolved and is at her highest self, So I just had to lean into trusting that even through all of this awfulness, this is what's getting her to her highest self. No amazing, interesting hero story is all about a lovely, beautiful butterflies fluttering around a perfect childhood, And so that's what I chose to come to for me. And that's what I always have redirected myself to when I do go into the worry and anxiety, because it does nothing for us to worry. So I just keep reminding myself, okay, if I cannot control it, if it's not in circle 1, call back from last episode, then, and if I can't, there's nothing that I can do coming up in the next, however long, then the best thing that I can do for me is take care of me. And I'm going to trust that how things are panning out for her are exactly what she needs in order to get to the best version of her. Okay. So these examples that I just gave you highlight the qualitative shift, right, between emotional recycling and emotional digestion. Same stimulus, same events happen, right? Different nervous system responses. Okay? When we feel unsafe, our brains try to control our emotion by analyzing, replaying, or moralizing it. It pulls old emotional files off the shelf, trying to make sense of the danger in front of us or how we're processing, seeing it, right? In that state, when we're there thinking danger, danger, everything's terrible right now, rumination becomes a form of self-protection. The mind tries to think its way out of the body's discomfort, which can't actually happen anyway, you guys. And it ends up stalling and trapping your grief, okay? Trying to think your way out of whatever emotional state that you're in is not the way to get you to a long-standing nervous system regulation. You know what I'm saying? With grief, though, you are participating in what's happening outside of you rather than trying to control it. Huge distinction there. Tears, trembling, even a gentle slump of the shoulders are signs that the nervous system is moving from sympathetic activation into parasympathetic release, okay? It's a shift from defense into digestion. You can think of resentment as emotional indigestion, okay? Energy gets stuck in the quote-unquote mouth of the mind, being chewed and chewed like cow cud, swallowed, and then brought back up to chew more again, and never really gets processed through, ever. Grief, by contrast, is the emotional metabolism. The body and psyche are breaking down meaning, they're absorbing what can be learned, and then releasing what no longer fits. Okay? So that's exactly that's exactly what I do with my clients and with my one-on-ones, is we look at what's happening, what the stories that we have, we're breaking down the meaning of everything systematically. And then we're absorbing what can be learned, deciding and then absorbing what can be learned, and then releasing what no longer fits for good, letting it go. so that you can create new thought habits, new superhighways up in your brain, neural pathways, right? Because what you believe, what you're thinking the most is what's going to create your results in your life. Not just about alienation, but the rest of your life. Who you believe you are and how the world works for you. Whatever those are, the default, not the ones that you want to believe, the things that you think you should believe, like the correct answer things. It's the way back of the bus, the oldest beliefs is what run you, okay? Until you change that. So in summary, resentment loops belong to the sympathetic system, sympathetic nervous system. It's fight and flight. Grief, on the other hand, belongs to your parasympathetic. It's your rest and digest. One burns through energy and one restores it. So right now, I'm going to, if you've been thinking about that activating situation from earlier, during the quiz, I'm going to invite you to take a slow, deep breath through your nose and then let your exhale leave your body through your mouth. With each exhale, think of a layer of your old story leaving you. Like picture almost, like the magicians when they pull that ribbon that changes colors out of their mouth. Imagine your exhales doing that and that ribbon being the old stories of your past, whatever story you were just thinking about just a minute ago. And then place one hand over your heart and ask to yourself, is this pain demanding for justice or is it asking for witness? That is another really easy way to tell what's going on. Is it demanding justice or is it just asking me to witness it? Notice what happens in your body when you ask that. Justice-seeking pain will tighten. There's a forward push and a readiness to argue. It's fiery, tight. Grief-seeking pain feels tender, feels honest. Maybe there's a sort of pull downwards. It's a grounding. It is a slower, softer sort of energy to it. Maybe even a quiet ache. So just notice your body, like what happens with it. If it's more rushed and needing to get somewhere very urgent, that's sturdy pain. Clean pain, like I said, clean grief, emotions, sad, mourning sort of emotions are slow and have a downward pull. Both experiences are valid. I need to say this, okay? They're both valid. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you for having either experience. Like I said, I've had both sides of the spectrum, and all in between, really. What human hasn't, right? But especially going through grief. There's nothing wrong with you if you are creating some suffering in your life. It makes sense because that's how we've been conditioned to believe we need to process through emotion is by making sense of it and keeping repeating and looping and trying to draw evidence from our past. It creates this weird sense of safety, security for us, but it doesn't, right? It's the certainty of it. But it doesn't actually. It actually causes more pain on top of it. So both are valid, but only one will bring you rest and evolution, like evolvement. Old pain keeps you in survival. New pain ushers towards truth. So when you find yourself spiraling, ask, am I looping or am I living? So is it pain demanding justice or is it asking for witness? Am I looping or am I living? Another way to put it. If it's looping, breathe, put your hand on your heart, gently remind your system, I'm here now and I am safe right now. Okay? I'm here. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between what you're telling it and what's actually happening. So bring it back to earth, back to the present moment. I'm right here. It's okay. Everything is okay. I'm safe. Okay? And I know that sounds so, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, not rudimentary, but just so basic. But this is what your nervous system needs in the moment when you are activated. Okay? All right. So if it's living, let the wave move through you. Trust that integration leaves behind lightness. This is when so many of us are so scared, and I talk about this a lot, but like, we're so scared that like, if we let the tears come, that it'll be, the floodgates are open, then it's never going to stop. And if that's really happening with you when you just have uncontrollable tears coming, what's the problem with uncontrollable tears coming, number one? Unless you're like, in the middle of a presentation at work or something, it's okay. The problem that we have is when we make the tears, whatever the emotion is, means something about us, about our healing. There's a story around it. That's what hurts more. It's like, oh, this must mean that, I suck, or I'm not where I thought I was, or this grief is still here. It's never going to end. That is the stuff that hurts. There's nothing wrong with tears. I think everybody does it. We all cry at some point. And those of us that don't have been blocked, we've blocked ourselves, right? We're numb and maybe in state of freeze, maybe prolonged freeze. And that's okay too. But anyway, so let the wave move through you and just trust that with this integration, because that's what processing, metabolizing grief is integrating your emotions with what is currently happening in your life. It's integrating your emotions and your inner state with where you are and where you're headed. When you separate it and want to push it away, it keeps your life very segmented and blocked. That's when it's hard for flow states to happen because there's so many different little compartments. I just reminded myself of that Seinfeld episode where George is like talking about when worlds collide. Anyway, so healing doesn't mean that you never revisit pain. Pain is going to happen. Healing just means that, one, that you just get good and comfortable with feeling discomfort, emotional discomfort. And it means that you learn to tell time sort of inside your body. You know when the past is speaking and when the present is speaking. That awareness is power, and peace grows from there. Just knowing what's happening with you. Because so often we get swooshed up, swept up from the old pain, self-created suffering pain, the stuff from the past, the dirty pain. And we think that it rules us, that our past is reaching into today and taking us for the ride. But it doesn't have to be like that at all. It's really unnecessary, in fact. If you can just differentiate in your mind, oh, this is me telling an old story, an old outdated story from my past. I can redefine, like rewrite that story to support me today and moving forward. Or I can keep it an outdated version and have it cause suffering for me and today moving forward. You know? I think that's it. I'm just going to really quickly, I mean, this is a short episode anyway. So core distinction between ancient resentment, the old unprocessed dirty pain, is it feels repetitive, circular, and often escalates your distress without any new insight. It looks like rumination, replaying the same scenes, arguments, and what ifs over and over, and with lots of blaming and always and never statements. Language, okay? Research links this kind of repetitive brooding rumination to higher levels of prolonged grief, PTSD, and depression. Metabolizing grief, on the other hand, feels wave-like, okay? It's intense, but there's a sense of movement, even if small, towards meaning, acceptance, or integration. It involves emotional processing, naming the feeling, allowing it, and eventually arriving at some shift in perspective, some sort of relief or clarity. In grief research, this looks like oscillating. I did an episode on that a while back, oscillating between confronting the loss and engaging with life, rather than staying stuck in one mode. I think the episode was called Why Avoiding Your Negative Emotion, Why Avoiding Your Emotions is Sometimes a Good Thing. Something like that. It was like last fall, I think. Not this past fall, the one before that. So it looks like oscillating between confronting the loss and engaging in life. Like, I'm going to spend 20 minutes feeling this pain, and then I'm going to go ahead and move to the next thing. So that grief doesn't just eat up your entire life, or sadness, negative emotion doesn't eat up your entire life. You're giving it space, okay? You're scheduling it in, or whatever it is that needs to happen, so that you're acknowledging it's there. But then you're also giving you space to not let your life go by. You know, years pass by because you've been stuck in this dark buzzard flying over your head state of mind. Because that's the thing, is like your nervous system, it records, it doesn't file things away neatly. It files things away, or even necessarily in order of time. It files away your state of mind for each circumstance, situation, painful, happy, whatever experience that you have. It files away a state of mind. That's why music is so powerful. Right? You know how you felt that music caused you to feel, and it reminds you of a whole period of time, right? Because of the way that music, what it pulled out of you. Anyway, now I'm just talking just to talk. So I'm going to go. But I hope that this episode helps you guys to gain some clarity around what's going on for you in the moment. And then that way, it won't feel so necessary to continue entertaining those the outdated stories of your past, right? Even if the circumstances, you're like, well, I'm not going to lie to myself about the past. You don't have to lie to yourself, but you can pull the facts out of the past or the stories from the past. In fact, you don't even have to pull facts out. You can make your stories be whatever you want them to be so that they feel good for you, or you can just choose to leave some of those stories in the past and you don't need to repeat them to yourself, right? Think of it as like the stories of your past are literally books on the shelf of your mental library, right? Like maybe you've got stacks and stacks and stacks of, shelves of books all over. You decide whether you want to pick that book out or whether you want to toss it, what you want to do with it, and how you want to really write it from here forward. It doesn't have to be based on fact if you don't want to, and it can if you want. It just depends on what feels right for you. But you get to be the manager of that. You're not required to repeat the same versions of your stories from how you think that somebody else would tell you to tell it, your kiddo or whoever. That's their perspective and that's their prerogative. But in order to feel in charge of your life and create the best possible future for yourself, you got to step into the authority of speaking stories in truth, I'm using air quotes there, that pushes you forward, right? That's your responsibility. So anyway, all right, that's what I have for you guys. So I will see you next week. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening today. If you like what you're hearing and you'd like to hear more, please make sure to click subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Also, for bite-sized clips and tips, be sure to find me on TikTok or Instagram. See you next week.